The topic for this week's video is to either film a home game or do a hand history analysis, and I'm guessing by the title of the video that you know which one I've chosen to do. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a hand that happened to me back in July at a casino. It was sort of a private game that the casino was hosting, and I'm going to try and explain all of the poker terminology along the way, so if you don't know that much about poker, hopefully you can follow along with the hand as well. So, without further ado, let's analyze this hand. Okay, the main purpose I want this video to have is that so many people that play poker nowadays have this notion that they have to be balanced, and that it's really important that if they're bluffing, they have to also have good hands and vice versa. But I'm here to tell you that that's not true whatsoever, because most of poker is all about the context. So for example, if someone bets the river and they play the hand in such a way that they would never be bluffing, then it would be stupid to call with the bottom of your range, even though that would make you more balanced. So I'm going to try and convince you that you should not be balanced when you play live poker. So on the face of it, and logically, being balanced makes complete sense, because it makes you really difficult to play against, right? Because you could have good hands, you could have bad hands, who knows what you've got. But in reality, a lot of the people you play against with live poker are people that aren't even going to consider what you've got. So not exploiting the fact that they're not thinking about your hand would just be stupid. Okay, so to try and prove my point, I'm going to run through this hand history, and I'm not going to analyze it the first time through. I'm just going to tell you the hand, and then I'm going to then add in all the context afterwards, so you can see how much it really changes what I was doing on every street and the reasons I was doing it. Okay, so this hand starts at a 7-handed table. The blinds are £5, £10, £25 with a £50 straddle for this hand. And the first player to act opens, he raises to £225. I'm next to act in the cutoff position. This is the position on the right of the button. I re-raise now to £700, and this is what's known as a free bet because it's the third bet in the pot. So the blinds are the first bet, the guy raised to 225, that's technically a 2-bet, and now I put in the third bet. It now folds around to the player in the straddle position, the player that straddled to £50 pre-flop. And for those of you that don't know, a straddle is just a blind raise first to act. He now calls the £700, having only put £50 in pre. This is called a cold call, and it's when you call a raise and a re-raise without any more chips in the pot. So generally that would represent a very strong range of hands for most players. The player that opened the pot, the pre-flop original raiser, he folds, and now we go heads up to the flop, and this makes the pot about £1,665. And I have a stack of around £4,200 behind, I believe. And the flop comes Queen 6-3 rainbow with none of my suit. I have 5-6 of diamonds, there's no diamond on the flop. He checks, I start by betting £550, which is 1/3 of the pot. And he now raises to £1,650, which is that's 3 times what I made it. I call in position, this makes the pot just under £5,000 and leaves me with less than a half pot size bet behind. The turn comes a king and brings a flush draw that I don't have, and he now checks, and I check behind. The river comes a jack, so the full board now is king, queen, jack, 6-3, and he now bets £2,000, and I call with my 4th pair, and I'm shown ace-8 offsuit for a complete bluff, and I win the hand, which was, I think, the biggest pot I've ever won, about £9,000. So now the reason I wanted to analyse this hand in particular was because if I tell you the hand like that, just the action, it seems like my call is bad. Because I have one of the worst hands I can have, I lose to so many hands, even if he's bluffing, I lose to some of his bluffs. But I'm going to try and tell you why being balanced and only calling with better hands would not have made sense here, and why I think my call was actually very profitable. Okay, so the first bit of context. This is a private cash game I was playing, and we've been playing off and on for the whole weekend, so I got to know all of the players at the table very, very well. I've played like several hours with them over this weekend. Also, this is one of the biggest games that I'd ever played. I like to bankroll very aggressively, and I was actually sitting with about 15% of my net worth on this game because the game was that good, and I just wanted to go for it. And I'm not going to say this is responsible and you should do it too, but this aggressive bankroll management style has actually served me very well when I've played poker. So this is a really, really big game for me. So because of that, I decided to sell 40% of my action, meaning if I was sitting with, for example, £8,000, then I would have only been sitting with 6,400 of my own money, and the rest of it would have been action I'd sold to someone else, and they would have got 40% of whatever I won. I think it made a lot of sense for me to do this because it allowed me to play a game that was very good, and it also allowed me to not be sort of too scared with the money I was playing with. Because if I was sitting with just my own money, I might have started to think, oh, this is a really big part, I don't want to make a really close call and end up losing a lot of my own money. So that's why bankroll management is actually so important, because if you're going to risk a substantial amount of the money you own, you're naturally going to play tighter than you actually should. The fact I'd gotten to play with these players so much over this weekend and got to know them so much is actually crucial to the way this hand pans out, because knowing their tendencies and knowing their perception of me is going to be imperative for the logic I use to making this call. And to give you one final bit of pre-context, the guy that I played this hand against, the guy I made the call against, is someone who I would describe as a fun player. And this is someone who basically is playing the game to have fun. They're not sitting there thinking about hand analysis and thinking about all the in-depth stuff with poker. They're going there to have a good time. They enjoy playing poker, they have lots of fun, they want to play some hands, they want to win some pots, and it's a hobby for them that they really enjoy. They don't necessarily need to win because they have probably a substantial amount of money already. They're just playing for fun. Okay, so the first action in this hand is the hijack or first to act player in the hand raises to just over 4 times the big blind. And first of all, his sizing is very important because he had been sizing slightly smaller throughout the game. He'd been going to say 2.5 to 3x sometimes, and I'd seen him show it with hands like aces and queens, like very good hands, when he'd gone to less than 3 big blinds. And now it was a straddle pot, he decided to go bigger. And straddle pots usually mean that people play slightly tighter because although there's more money in the pots are going to naturally be bigger, so people don't want to go insane in those sort of spots. Okay, so now the original raiser folds and we go to the flop, which is queen 6-3 rainbow, and he checks. So now I think checking and betting are both fair options here, but the fact that he can have such a wide range of hands, like he has hands like Jack 10 suited, 9-8 suited, stuff like this, I think betting and winning now is going to be very helpful to us. There's also the fact that if we bet now, we can potentially check turns and then realize all our equity. So if he has a hand like 10s, if we bet now and he calls, we can both check the turn, and then I can see all the cards and then decide what I want to do. Also, if I bet the flop and then I turn a 6 or a 5, this way I can bet the turn to then set up a river all in. So I think betting gives us the most maneuverability in the hand and makes the most sense. So he checks and I bet a third of the pot, which I think is it's going to achieve the same as betting bigger. I think it makes the most sense for my entire range of hands to bet a third of the pot on this particular flop. And now he decides to check raise to £1,650, and this is very strange because his tendencies so far had been that when he had top pair or when he had an overpair, he'd been playing relatively passively. So I wouldn't expect him to show up with a hand like king, queen, ace, queen, kings or aces here, because I saw the time that he did call a raise with aces, he then check called, and then I think maybe bet small on the river. So it's not like he wants to say, oh, let's play a really big pot suddenly because I've got a really good hand. He normally is very polarized when he does a check raise on this flop. So now that I think he's polarized, meaning he can only have a set of 2s, a set of 6s, maybe queen 6 suited, which there's one combo of. Obviously there's only one combo of a set of 6s here as well. Then what makes the most sense to do against that range? And it's if we go all in, we get to deny the equity that his bluffs have. So if he has 9-10 suited here, we get to make them fold. But if we call, we might induce a bluff on a later street. So I actually think calling makes the most sense because our all-in will never get called by a worse hand here. Okay, so the turn is the king of hearts bringing a flush draw, and now he checks. And this is very interesting because I only had a half pot size bet behind, so I don't know what good hand he can now check with. I think it doesn't make sense to check with any value range when the turn brings a flush draw. If he has a set, or if he did somehow have aces or like king queen or ace queen, I don't know how often he would be checking here. So when he does check, I think this is most likely the fact he's giving up on the hand. So I check back the turn, and now the river is a jack, and again this is slightly annoying because if he has a bluff that he now might have got there. But the good thing about this river is if he had jack 10, he would have jammed all in on the turn with his straight draw. I'm pretty sure about, or if he had like a jack X of hearts type hand that turned a flush draw, he would have gone all in with that. So I actually think if he checks this river, there's a very good chance that we lose the hand. But now he bets £2,000, and more interestingly, he bet £2,000 straight away. He didn't consider the fact that I didn't have much more than this behind. He just went £2,000 and threw it in. So I think timing tells are actually very important with poker as well. And the fact he bets very quickly is it was almost as if he knew he was going to bet any river once I'd checked the turn. So that usually means he was either trapping the turn or he was going to have another go at bluffing, if that makes sense. Okay, so all of the things that mounted up to make me make this call, there was the action on the actual pot, which made him very polarized on the river. There was his timing tell on the river, the fact he bet quickly, and also the fact he didn't go all in, because really his value hands should go all in because they're missing the extra few £100 I had behind by only betting £2,000, so this helped as well. So when all of these things aligned together, they consolidated the fact that I thought this was a call, and I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't make this call, so I did it. Thank you for watching this video. I'll be back next week for a third vlog, and the next one is going to actually be an interview between me and my brother, because I have to talk to someone who has accompanied me on my poker journey. So I hope that you'll like and share this video and give it as much engagement as possible. That would mean a lot to me. Alright, thank you, and have a delightful day.